Today I'm going to be competing in my first Into the Inklands Lorcana tournament. We are now 1 week into the release of Into the Inklands, the third Lorcana trading card game set, and safe to say, the deck is not complete. Before I set off for the tournament, I'm going to show you my deck today, the cards that I'm hoping to use, and the strategy that I kind of have, or lack thereof, going into this tournament. So up until now, I was playing Lorcana over the past two releases. I've tried to play Amethyst and Ruby, which is draw and control, is the easiest way to describe it to anyone that's new to this game. Basically, the idea is draw as many cards as you can and control your opponents, control all the cards your opponents are playing, really. It could potentially become a lot more difficult with this third set. That card is certainly not in my deck. It's going to be an interesting experience today. I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of emerald or green decks out there. They're mostly discard, and there's a lot of support for those particular cards within this new set, which could make for a slightly tricky afternoon. So there are a bunch of cards in here to try and counteract that. Up until now, the Emerald haven't really had any 1-drops, so you've had to wait to turn 2 or 3 before they actually do anything. That's no longer the case. They now have 1-drops, some very good 1-drops as well, or cards that cost 1 ink to play. So cards like Teeth and Ambitions, which allow me to deal 2 damage to one of my characters, to deal another 2 damage to a character of my chosen choice. This is the sort of thing that will hopefully get rid of some of those 1-drops, particularly early on, and just really try to keep the game under control. With a deck like Amethyst and Ruby, your idea is really to make the game go as long as possible. A lot of your cards tend to come into advantage the further and further you go. This sort of modified version I'm going to play today doesn't really have all that many cards that require 7 or 8 ink. Apart from Be Prepared, which is one of the most fundamental cards really in any sort of control deck, which allows you to banish all characters on the field. There's a lot of counters now to this, so it's not foolproof. Opponents are well aware it's a card, they're well aware it's a danger, and more often than not, they will have some sort of counter in mind for Be Prepared. Nevertheless, it's still a threat, it's still a very good card. In my eyes, this is one that I would like to hope that, if not every game, the vast majority of my games today, I'll have some use for. So I've kind of tried to lay out my cards here on the table. You're not going to see everything. I realise not everything's going to be envisioned, but I'm going to just kind of point out a few of the cards that I feel could potentially make a big difference in this deck going forward. So first off, Mini has up until now been the evasive attacker, especially in the mirror matchup as well, because it is evasive, it can cause this particular deck some problems. And that will continue to do so today. So this will be the evasive card for evasive attacking. However, this new card right here, RLS Legacy. Characters gain evasive whilst in this location. If you have a character here, you pay 2 less to move a character of your choice here. Ideally, I would have had 2 of these cards for today. I don't, so I've had to stick in an Agrabaha, which will also gain you 2 lore at the start of your turn if you have this location in play. And yeah, it's inkable, so it's not a great replacement, but it is the best that I've got at the moment. Straight away, if you're familiar with how this deck runs, you'll notice there's a few cards missing. Fortunately, however, I do have a couple of packages, so I do have a few cards to open this morning, and I'm kind of hoping that these will add to the deck today, and yeah, just make it a lot more playable. It's week 1. It's very early days for this set. The sort of main release isn't even out yet. You can't go into a supermarket and buy it. You can't go into most retailers. You can only really get it from hobby stores. There will probably be a couple of people whose decks are just like complete, because there always is at these things. And there's also been a good couple of drafts, so I think that will get most cards for most people. But this right here, I'm so happy with these 2 Jim Hawkins. Ideally I would have had 4. Again, it's just too early. I don't have 4 yet. I have 2. So I think this will be a really good sort of indication of how this goes today whenever these cards appear. I do have 1 more on the way, so I'm hoping at the very least to have 3 for next week. One's a foil as well, actually. Super happy. So these will be going in the deck today. Got another letter with a couple more cards. So for these ones, I'm not entirely sure what the other 2 are. I knew the Jim Hawkins was going to arrive. Oh, it's the Rafiki. So this was the ones that I wasn't so keen on, to be honest, or wasn't so bothered about. Rafiki. Oh, there's a Queen's Castle. Oh, yes. That's what I was after. Perfect. Queen's Castle is what I was after. That's brilliant. I didn't realise they were arriving. In that case, everyone's arrived. Fantastic. Great. So we got a couple of Rafiki cards. This is one that I was contemplating. I might stick 1 in today just to try it out. Rafiki's ability is Challenger +3. Whenever this card challenges, this character gains +3 attack. So for 1-drop, it's really good. Helps clean up early in the board. It kind of sets a precedent. any tricky one drops, particularly in the likes of my own deck, where I have things like minis and Olafs. All of a sudden, Rafiki has the ability to potentially get rid of that and turn to a very helpful card. As I say, today I reckon there'll be a lot of Emerald decks. A lot of the Emerald decks you kind of have to find a way to get rid of without directly hitting them. Sometimes you can't help it and you just have to hit them and take the hit. So the Queen's Castle is a card that I really did need 4 of for today, because this is going to be one of the main ways for me to draw cards without relying on things like Friends on the Other Side, which up until this point have been a very good draw card. But all of a sudden, we're seeing a lot more cards that are going to get rid of songs earlier on. There's an Ursula Emerald card, which requires 2 ink, which allows your opponent to discard one of your songs. Be Prepared, for example, gone. Things like Friends on the Other Side, gone. We're going to have to find ways to draw cards that don't require Friends on the Other Side. We're going to have to find ways to remove things without Be Prepared, for example. There's going to be a few differences today. It's not going to be quite the same, but cards like the Queen's Castle are also going to make a massive difference. This is a location card that at the start of your turn, each of your characters you have here, you may draw 1 card. For every character at this location, we get to draw a card, and we'll also gain 2 lore. So this is a very, very good card. We want to get as many of them on the board as possible. We have 4 potentially now. I have another one in my binder, so I will be using 4 of those today, which is a huge, huge relief. Okay, so this leaves 1 more envelope now. There is 1 more of these things to go, and this will be the last piece of the puzzle for today's deck at least. This isn't going to be the finished article. There's still a little while to go. It's not going to be completely ready for any intensive action. However, we do have 2 Madam Medusa. I don't like that. Whenever people put tape over the top of a top loader, they're trying to make sure the card doesn't fall out, but at the same time what they don't realise is it does leave a residue. That's not great. 2 Madam Medusa, also on the same penny sleeve, fantastic. These will be in the deck today. When I mention finding different ways to potentially remove your opponent's cards, this is one of those cards that will help you do that. Whenever you play this character, banish chosen opposing character with 3 or less attack. A couple of downsides to this card. First of all, it's not inkable. It requires 6 ink. Second of all, it's only opposing characters with 3 or less attack, so it won't take out absolutely everything, or allow you to choose to take out everything, which is a slight drawback on Lady Tremaine here. The upside opposed to Lady Tremaine is if your opponent has a character with less than 3 attack you do want to get rid of, you can choose it. So you can choose which character to get rid of. I also only quest for 1 lore, so these 2 cards today will also be making the deck. The setup for today is pretty much complete. This isn't going to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but hopefully it just gives a little bit of an indication of how this could potentially work going forward. A little bit of experimentation, which in week 1 is kind of what you expect, to be honest. Judging on my own personal experience trying to get some of the particular cards that I need for this deck, it wasn't easy. There's not much available. It's so early on. It's a weekend. Not everyone's going to have a hold of these things. So I'm kind of hoping that works in their favour. Going into any of these events, my big thing is not always to win, but to compete. In any given game, if I feel like I've competed, I'm always quite happy regardless of the outcome. With all these cards here, the idea is to compete. At the very least, compete. There's going to be mistakes. It's not going to be perfect. But to be honest, that's not how I operate. It's never been how I operate. I never aim for perfection. I'll just try to do the best I can. There's a couple more cards I would like to talk about very quickly. First of all, Dragonfire, which is a set 1 first chapter card, which has kind of dropped off a little bit. Some people still use it, not as much as they did. Allows you to banish chosen character for the cost of 5 ink, uninkable. This is almost a direct replacement for only having 1 of these, which is a Prince Eric. Kind of reminds me almost of a Yu-Gi-Oh card that I used to play back in the day. This card, when this character is banished, you may banish chosen character. So for our opponent's side of you, they really want to get rid of it. They want to use a resource to get rid of it without challenging it, which also helps us get rid of their good stuff. You cannot ink this card. It does quest for 2 lore, so it is a very, very good card. Dragonfire is not going to be a direct replacement, because you can't gain lore off of Dragonfire, but at the same time, I am kind of hoping that it just kind of helps balance things a little bit in the meantime until I can get hold of another Prince Eric. So I have gave the cards a quick shuffle, counted up how many inkables to uninkables there are. In total, there are 15 uninkable cards and in total 47 inkable cards, which is a pretty good split. I do like going slightly over 60. I don't like using 60 on the nose, just in case you're game sort of goes to who has the most cards in their deck, so I like to go slightly over 60. It has happened to me before. 15 uninkables, I'm pretty happy is a decent amount. I have given the cards a quick shuffle, so at this moment I'm just going to simulate a few hands and kind of see where the starting point for this deck potentially could be. So first off, we will cut as though our opponent cuts. And then I'll take 7 from the top. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So these potentially could be the first 7 cards of the hand, which is a Merlin Goat, a Maui, a Minnie Mouse, a Prince Eric, another Minnie Mouse, a Queen's Castle, and a Dragonfire. So that is a pretty good hand straight off the bat. In this situation, I would probably look to mulligan Prince Eric, which means I can send it back to my deck and draw another card. You can only do that at the start of the game. And also a Dragonfire. Those two are the uninkable cards, so they're not going to serve much of a purpose right now. So I'll take 2 off the top, leave those there, and these can get shuffled back in. Okay, so the extra 2 cards are going to be a Jim Hawkins and a Maleficent. Right, so that is a pretty good hand right here. Very, very good starting hand. The idea for this particular hand, we get Jim Hawkins down as quick as possible. Now that can only happen on turn 5, but as soon as Jim Hawkins can go down, you can play the Queen's Castle for free, you can move Jim Hawkins to the Queen's Castle, and you're going to start drawing cards on your next turn, as well as gaining lore. Now that's turn 5. Before that, you've got a little bit of work to do to get there. So early on, I'd be looking to ink a mini since I've got 2, play a mini first turn. Whenever it comes back to us, I would look to ink the goat. We don't have a turn to play, so that is the one drawback of this hand. So what we've kind of got at the moment. So we're going to kind of have to ride our luck a little bit till turn 5. Turn 3, we do have an Olaf. I would probably ink it, however, in order to play a Maleficent to draw another card and another Jim Hawkins. So that's great. Cool. So this is our sort of turn 3 setup. As we turn into turn 4, we're almost there. We're almost at the point. We're going to continue to draw cards in the meantime, however. Ink as we go. Oops, I would have to have inked in order to play the rabbit. So in that case, I would probably ink a Maui. So yeah, at this point, we're just trying to get to turn 5. And when turn 5 eventually comes along, we can then look to play Jim Hawkins, play the castle, move Jim Hawkins, and then potentially even move any more characters to the Queen's Castle for the cost of 1 to move them there as well. So that was a pretty good hand there. The only issue was it was very much turn 5 onwards. And right now in this game, I think things are going to be a lot more pacey. I think very early on, a lot of damage can be done, and we really just have to maintain a level playing field until we can get to turn 5, where we can really start to set up our attacks. Again, I'll pretend that I'm the opponent and just cut the cards. I don't think League is that competitive, so some people want to cut, some people might not. I'm really not that fussed either way, to be honest. I don't pretend to be an expert or a professional. Okay, so the 7 cards this time would be a Maleficent, a Madam Mim, another Madam Mim, Friends on the Other Side, a Teeth and Ambitions, a Maui, and another Teeth and Ambitions. Some nice cards, some not so good cards there. So with this particular hand, there's a few options. There's definitely some cards to get rid of. So for example, there's 2 Madam Mims, so one of those can go away. Potentially send the Teeth and Ambitions. Yeah. You've got to remember, the opponent is going to have the ability to get rid of song cards early on. Fortunately, however, we do have a Friends on the Other Side, so we could potentially allow them to have that so that we can keep our Teeth and Ambitions. So at this moment, that puts us to 5. Everything's inkable. We don't have a turn 1 play, which means that I'll probably send more cards back in an attempt to get a card that I can play, particularly in turn 1. We need something in order to play Teeth and Ambitions. So I would probably send away Madam Mim, because this is going to bounce something, and you're talking turn 3, the earliest to bounce it. And if I was really trying to be quite aggressive and going about trying to find a 1 card, I would also send another one away to try to maximise my chances here. I would probably send Maui. We want to keep Friends on the Other Side, and then Maleficent's also going to be draw. So we're potentially 4 more cards now for the top of the deck that in turn 1 we can bring in. So this is a slightly aggressive way to go about it in terms of sending a lot more cards back. Some of those cards you could definitely ink, but we do need to sort of find a platform very early on in the game, turn 1, find something to sort of stabilise the game and allow us to try and control, basically. We'd have had a Madam Mim, another Maui comes back to us, a Merlin, and an RLS Legacy. So not great, to be honest. No one-drop cards. And therein lies the problem. In this sort of situation, realistically, we can't do anything now until turn 3, which is a long, long wait. So we're going to have to find a way to sort of balance this out a little bit. And maybe the answer is trying a Rafiki today and just increasing those one-drops and increasing the opportunity to potentially get something in turn 1 that we can play into the deck. So that's the strategy today. That's what I'm kind of hoping to achieve. These are the cards that I'll be using. It's not going to be perfect. There will be experimentation with this deck. Some things will work, some things won't. But hopefully it gives us a good base to build a good deck that can allow us to compete in weekly tournaments. Unfortunately, there is music that plays in the venue. I can't record every match as well, unfortunately. But I will get as much as I can. And we'll be back here for the post-match. Okay, we're back for the post-game. I've been to the tournament this afternoon, had a good time. I ended up playing 3 games in total, 3 rounds. I lost the first game to the eventual winner, 2-1. They won the first game, I won the second game, they won the third. I got a bye in the second game, so I didn't actually play game 2, and then the third game I won, 2-1. I believe I lost the first one and then won the second 2. You know what, all in all, I thought it was a pretty good day in the office. I thought the cards worked quite well. There's some here that I just want to talk about very briefly that I'll highlight. But first of all, I just want to show you the prize, and you might be wondering what you actually get for attending these events, and I'm here to show you. So first off, we get the promo cards. These are the promo cards that are exclusive to attending a Lorcana League event. So you will only get these promo cards if you attend an in-person event, or if you happen to go to a store that is giving them away. We got a Jolly Roger card, and also a John Silver promo card. So both of these promos were given out today, which I was quite happy with. I was only expecting 1 promo card. We ended up getting 2 of those, or 1 each, which is really nice. Next, I just want to highlight some of the cards from this set that I feel like made a massive difference. Lady Tremaine is one from the previous set that I used, and you know what, it still has some use, so I was quite happy to include that. Prince Eric is massive, a huge card. The game that I played, the second game against Steel Song, and even the opponent that played this against me in the first game, it makes such a big difference. Forcing you to attack into it, banishing another character, if not to lure. Massive, massive card. And as it was pointed out to me today, you can even use this card to sing Teeth and Ambitions, or use Teeth and Ambitions on this card to destroy it and then activate its effect, then also cause 2 damage to another opponent, which is massive. So this is an incredible card. It can't be inked, so for that reason, I would probably add 1 more of them in. Potentially in these packs, but 1 more of these for certain has to go in this deck. Madame Medusa, this was a new addition today, and yeah, it was massive again, made a big difference. Very, very helpful that you actually get to select your target for banishment. Really helps against the Steel Song deck that I played. One of the players that I was speaking to believes this is potentially the best location at the moment, and you know what, it's going to be hard to disagree with them. You gain 2 passive lore at the start of your turn. It only costs 1 to move to the last location. And at the start of your turn, for each character that you have here, you draw a card. So draw support, inkable, you gain lore, doesn't cost much to move there. Win, win, win. Used 4 of them today, just didn't see them enough. And when I did see them, it was at the wrong time. I had a situation where I had to ink something, I didn't have enough ink to, I think it was under 4 ink at this point, so I had to ink a Queen's Castle, and I had a gem in my hand that I couldn't use. I couldn't use it, and it would have been, the combo would have been off. As I was saying at the start of today, this isn't perfect. There is some room for manoeuvrement, and hopefully these 2 packs might actually help getting a few cards that go towards fine-tuning this deck, and I think it is fine-tuning. I think the idea's there, it just needs a little bit of work. RLS Legacy, massive card again. Characters gain evasive, that caught a few people out by surprise, and also you pay 2 less to move another character here, so you'd only pay 1 if you have a character here already. Massive card, have to add another one of these for sure. Another Queen's Castle as well. So those are just a few of the cards that today in this deck in particular I felt were a big help. I will have to reduce the number. Going in at the start, I want it to be over 60. I get the idea of that, but it's just not quite right. Some of the draws, especially earlier on, there was one game in particular, the first game against Steel Song I played, I didn't stand a chance. It took me up to 4 turns before I could do anything, which is just far, far too long. Gives your opponent far too much time to go and do their own stuff, and yeah, you're just really chasing the game at that point, and unfortunately for me, yeah, I didn't feel like I stood a chance after that. The early game is very important. As a result, I'm going to have to adjust this deck, take some cards out, and yeah, just really fine tune it down to just make it a bit more compatible, really. On to the rest of the pricing. These two packs, everyone kind of opens their packs in the stores. I wanted to bring these back today. I don't normally open in the store, but today we're going to open it here and kind of see what's going on and see if second place pricing is very good. I should have mentioned, I ended up coming second place. There was 9 players today. I only won one game, so it does feel a bit of a con, to be honest, to come second out of 9 players by only winning one game. Getting the bye essentially counts as a win, so I got a bye in game 2, which counts as a win, but I only actually won one game. We got a Sorcerer's Tower. I don't know if I've actually seen that one yet. That's interesting. Oh, wait, I have. It's the Brim Support. We got a Mufasa. It's going to be a rare Minnie Mouse. And just a common strike, a good match. So a bit of a dud pack there. Nothing of interest. Fingers crossed. I'd really love to see not even like Enchanted or anything, but just something like an RLS Legacy. Something that is deck worthy would be great instead of me having to kind of go away and trying to source one myself. If I could get something in this pack that could go straight into the deck, that would be super helpful. We've got an Ursula, which is going to be, a Jolly Roger. Ursula is going to be a big card. Along Came This is a good card, just not for this deck. A super rare Little John. And finally, a rare Mowie's Fishhook. Alright, so that's a pretty good packet, actually. That is a pretty good packet. Along Came Zeus. Deal 5 damage to a chosen character or location. This is massive. That'll make a big difference against decks like mine. So I'm not a massive fan of that card, obviously. So all in all, unfortunately, there's no cards here that I can put straight into the deck, which would have been nice. But at the same time, this gives you a sort of rough indication of what you can expect if you attend one of these tournaments. I was fortunate enough to get 2 packets. It cost £8, I believe it was, to enter. So it basically covers the cost of the packs, basically. The packs pay for themselves. And on top of that, you also get these promo cards, which is really nice. Towards the end, after 4 weeks, things are sort of worked over 4 weeks. At the end of the 4 weeks, pin badges are given out for players with the most amount of points, who have won the most matches. You'll get promos and things for attending, but you also have the chance to win pin badges and various other bits and pieces. I have been very fortunate to have a little collection of pin badges here. This is a Lorcana pin badge that I got after in a giveaway for the last set. There's a little Winnie the Pooh one there as well as a Rapunzel one. And finally, a Little Mermaid pin too. There's a Stitch pin in this set, so I'd really like to get hold of that at the end of the 4 weeks. That'd be really nice. I cannot recommend going to one of these events enough if you're interested in Lorcana and if you want to take part. I'm very fortunate that the people that attend our event are very friendly. I didn't do too much filming when I was in there because I didn't really want to... First of all, a couple of reasons for that. I don't want to invade anyone's privacy. I do have permission from the actual store to do it, which is fine. Second of all, I don't really want to be videoing other people's cards because I kind of feel like in the spirit of competition, that's not really fair for me to kind of go home and then go, okay, this person uses this, and this. From the perspective of a player, I don't really want to ruin any of that, so I do want to kind of keep it as fair as possible, so I try not to do too much filming in the place, which also takes away for this vlog, because I would absolutely love to kind of go in and just kind of show my side of things and show some of my games and things like that. But from the perspective of an opponent, I can see why they might not be too happy about that, which is why there's not so much footage of the actual event in this video. This has been a video log of the first week of the Lorcana into the Inklands tournaments. All in all, I'm pretty happy with how today went. I would have liked to have played more games. Some people would be quite happy to get the buy and just automatic win. For me, I'd rather just play the game, and whatever the result is, I'm sure that'll take care of itself, but I'd rather just compete. It takes a long time to kind of put this deck together and get all these cards. I'd rather just use them, win, lose or draw. I'd rather try my best and see how that works out. Thank you very much for watching. I'll hopefully be back here next week with another vlog of Lorcana Week 2. And then hopefully when we get to Week 4, there might be some extra prizes and things given out as well. Let me know your thoughts on the Lorcana trading card game, if you're enjoying it, whether you've competed in local events yourself, whether it's something you're interested in or thinking about. Let me know in the comments. Hopefully see you back here very soon.